That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
So here's an odd collection. I got this because Steve and I were talking about the story arc Riddle Me That, which is still my absolute favorite Riddler story. And in that video, Steve, at first he really didn't care for the Riddle Me That story arc. He thought it was just kind of, it was interesting, but then he didn't like the ending and stuff. And I kind of won him over by the end of it, really. And I asked him recently how far over I'd won him, and he says it's now his second favorite Riddler story arc. So my question, of course, was, what's your first? And it's Dark Knight, Dark City. Now, before I get into the Riddler stuff, I want to mention that about, I don't even know how much, 3 issues. Okay. That much of it right here is the Riddler stuff. The rest of it, they just collected some Peter Milligan Batman stories. He has a very distinct way of writing Batman. I'll tell you that much from reading all these different stories, and like a lot of them are 1 or 2 issue little arcs, and they're fairly good, all things considered. I almost didn't finish reading through them because I got kind of like, and I'll talk about why. But as I went, they got better and better. Particularly the last 2 stories are utterly fantastic. There are 3 issues in the back, 2 different stories told within them, and those are friggin' great. But let's talk about Dark Knight, Dark City first, the titular thing, because this is what made me pick it up, is a Riddler story. So Peter Milligan writes a pretty, has a lot of supernatural, particularly mystical stuff driving what's going on behind his stories. There is one story in here, in this entire trade, where Batman is not going up against something supernatural. So in the first story, the Riddler has kidnapped 4 children, hypnotized a woman into delivering his riddle and then attempting suicide. Strung a guy up to hang. I mentioned killed a couple people. And yeah, kidnapped 4 babies. And is leading Batman, as always, on a chase through the city, trying to figure out what he's got going on. And throughout this, it's intercut with this guy's diary as he talks about, and he also makes Batman kill a dog with a silver knife. As the guy's diary talks about trying to summon a demon in order to control it, but they were unable to finish the ritual because it involved a human sacrifice, and no one had the stones to go through with that. And so the demon remained trapped beneath Gotham for decades, and so that is why that's where you get the Dark City, and then Batman is then the Dark Knight. So what Riddler is doing throughout the entirety of the story is tricking Batman into performing these satanic rituals in order to summon, or in order to regain control of the demon. I really like some of the ideas here. I just have a personal bias that it's hard for me to get over. I don't mind Batman going up against a supernatural threat. It doesn't bother me, because, when you really get down to it, Ra's al Ghul's a supernatural threat, too. Um, but I still don't love it when he's pitted up against that, because that's just not his element. He can do it. He's capable of it, but it's not his thing. I just feel like I'm more comfortable with it when it's him partnered with someone or whatever. It's just not. It's not my preference for Batman stories. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not the kind of stories with Batman I prefer. I think the biggest problem I have with this story, and as Steve said, it's his favorite Riddler story, is it's almost not a Riddler story. Because at the end, it's revealed that the demon was controlling and manipulating the Riddler to cause him to be more extreme, to get Batman to do all these things. The demon was manipulating him. So really, the Riddler is physically responsible, but it wasn't his idea. He didn't come up with the inspiration to do all this. It was the demon controlling him. And so that's why, far and away, riddle me this, or no, my bad, riddle me that. Shit. What's the name of the story arc? Riddle me this and or that, depending on where my brain is at the moment, is a much better Riddler story, because it is 100% the Riddler. This is the Riddler working through someone else. Or no, wait. Someone else working through the Riddler. But that being said, what the Riddler has Batman do is actually really, really clever. I think I'll just go with the most extreme. Like I mentioned that, he makes Batman kill a dog and stuff. The most extreme and the most interesting, however, is that he gets a baby to swallow some ping pong balls. Or a ping pong ball. Which, of course, a baby would choke on. Sorry, itchy nose. And the baby is sitting there choking, barely not able to breathe, and Batman's trying to, push it out. And, God, sorry. I know, disgusting. Batman's sitting there trying to, Heimlich get the baby to get it out, but it's not working. And so he has to perform a tracheotomy. He has to slit a child's throat. That's really clever. That's really cool. That's really, really messed up. Again, it would be nicer if it was wholly the Riddler. And so, yeah, I like a lot about this story arc. I like how human it gets for Batman, because there's just, a woman trapped, a woman's body left under some cellar for centuries, and he finds it important to take it out and stuff, and give her a proper burial. And there's some interesting notions about what the city is. The demon, I think, is gone, but for the last 2 days its words have been running through my head. It waited for a man to set a trail of riddles and for a bat to follow them. It gave birth to the bat so he might free it. Gave birth. Gotham shaped me, and that it was on Gotham streets that you were killed. But what... talking about his parents. But was it the city or the demon? Accident or design? Environment? Zeitgeist? Biology? Demons? I shake my head, breathe deeply, try to forget it. You're born, and your history, your time, your place is a mold into which you're thrown. Does it make any difference if a few demons are behind it also? My parents are still just as dead. Gotham is still Gotham. I am still whatever I am. I like that. In the end of the day, maybe this was all because of some kind of horrible mystical force of Gotham, or maybe that was just part of the equation, or maybe it didn't really factor into it at all, and Batman just happened to fit it this time. I like that. So Dark Knight Dark City will not, I say, break my my top Riddler stories in any way. I mean, it's It's good. It's just not really a Riddler story. It's a story that uses the Riddler through another character, but in an interesting way. So I don't think it'd break my my top Riddler stories, but it's still well done. So let's talk about some of the other stuff that we have in here. We have a guy who has cursed grass, that if you step on some of it, anything violent that has happened, any, lingering ghosts, that is happening in the area where you've stepped on the grass will come back and attack you. So there's like a couple leaving a theater, and, a woman steps on some grass, and immediately starts to choke her husband, trying to kill him, because a man choked his wife for cheating on him on that exact spot where the grass was. And so you have this guy who's placed this grass all over the place, yada yada. And Batman is able to, outwit and stop him and win the day, as always, because he's Batman. This one I didn't really care for. I thought it was just okay. Again, just not a huge fan of the Supernatural and Batman together. The next one was really weird. I mean, there's a Siamese twin henchman with two heads called Two-Tone. I mean, not only does he have two heads, one is white and one is black. That's weird. I don't know how that works, but whatever. That seems like a shitty Bond villain. So Batman has to stop that. And this was the one that was not supernatural. There's an old assassin who only targeted, other criminals, like, mob criminals kind of things. He'd only take out mob guys. And Batman has to deal with him. And he's trying to capture this guy and send him back to prison while dealing with Two-Tone, who's been hired to kill the guy, and yada yada. There's some really weird art. Two-Tone kicks Batman in the face, and he talks about it breaking his jaw, but it just looks like Batman's, sucking on a jawbreaker the whole rest of the issue. That's the worst way to show a broken jaw, in my opinion. So it just looks like Batman. Oh, it looked really silly, but at the end of the day, he tries to give the assassin over to police, but the guy ends up escaping and says he's not gonna be killing anyone anymore, and so Bruce Wayne kind of hopes that he never comes back to Gotham so he doesn't have to deal with him anymore. And then the last story arc, the last two stories, like I said, that one's just okay. The last one I really liked. It deals with an old Jewish guy living in Gotham's immigrant neighborhood, where that has slowly been traded out for a lot of Indian families. And there are a bunch of white supremacists running around, smashing up their shops and screwing with everything. And it's all, they're taking our heritage, blah blah blah, all that same crap that you always hear. And so this guy gets clay and creates what's called a golem. It's apparently some kind of Hebrew magic. And in order to protect the neighborhood from these monsters. And this just worked better for me because the character works so much better in this. The old Jewish man is just a really well-rounded, really interesting character. And Batman trying to deal with this golem thing is also really, really fascinating. So yeah, I really like a lot of what's going on with that. That is just entirely a character story. Of course, Batman wins in the end, but just all the issues in this it really fit for me in that story arc. It all just comes down to swastika. Oh, there's one thing I really like. The white supremacists go and kidnap the Jewish guy to try to figure out how to stop the golem. But before they take him out of his apartment, they hand him their spray paint can and tell him that they want him to vandalize his own apartment with swastikas. And the guy makes swastikas, trembles while he does it. But importantly, he has the edges go in the other direction, go counterclockwise as opposed to clockwise, which is the only difference between the Nazi swastika and the Asian or Indian swastika. For those that don't know, there is there are only so many shapes. So it's this weird little cultural thing that happened where two cultures came up with the exact same symbol, or very close, just one's clockwise, one's not, the exact same symbol for completely different meanings. So yeah, it's just a really neat little moment right there, and that's how Batman, the fact that he wrote it that way is what allows Batman to find him and save the day in the end. And then the final issue, our story, is called Identity Crisis. This one was interesting, and I liked it because it was a turn I was not expecting. Basically, Bruce Wayne goes to, he wakes up in the middle of a Gotham harbor wearing a tuxedo, and he doesn't know where he is or what he was doing last night, and he goes home, and Alfred's never heard of Batman, the Batcave isn't there, and there's another better Batman running around, and he doesn't know what's going on. And so you think it's going to be like a Perchance to Dream thing or something like that, where Batman, or we're following Bruce Wayne, but there's something else going on that reveals what, he's really been Batman the whole time. There's just some kind of villain tricking him. But in the end, we realize we haven't been following Bruce Wayne around the whole time. We were following a villain that tried to determine Batman's identity by reading his mind. And so Batman, being Batman, has a defense for that. I love it. So Batman confronts the villain as Bruce Wayne and says, "It's over, kid. Take a look at yourself." It's like, and so the guy realizes, "I was the synaptic kid, mutant mind reader extraordinaire. I entered Batman's mind to find out his true identity. I was going to blackmail him, pay or I spill the beans. But his mind was too strong. Woo-wee, did that mind fight me. Made me crazy. After I mind read him, I was wandering around in a black daze like my circuits had been melted, fell into Gotham River. That's when I woke up thinking I was Bruce Wayne." In what way did Batman make you crazy? He split his mind into two people. He was, or is, Batman and Bruce Wayne. So the Bruce Wayne my mind, in its battered delusion, thought it was a Bruce Wayne who wasn't Batman. Brilliant, eh? Hence all that weird stuff with the vanishing Batcave and Alfred knowing who I was. And then there's something else that covers that. He's really in a coma. He's just thinking that's what happened to him. So, yeah, very Grant Morrison there. Grant Morrison obviously pulls from some really interesting sources. So you have Batman separating, and you have Batman with a contingency plan for everything, including separating his identities as much as possible. So if someone tries to read his mind, they will be there's a backlash to it. I really like that. Good stuff. Yeah. I don't know. Overall, I really, really enjoyed this. Couple stories in the middle I didn't quite care for, but Yeah, Dark Knight, Dark City was interesting. I enjoyed it overall. It's just Peter Milligan isn't really my taste for Batman. In general, he's got a uh, very identifiable style with Batman of how he likes to write the character, and that's fine. And if you like the more supernatural Batman, that's fine. It's a perfectly valid version of Batman, and I have no problem with him being able to deal with those threats. It's just not my preference. Uh, but yeah, good book.
That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.